Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome back to our channel. And if you're new here, I'm so glad you're here. Today, I want to talk about something very near and dear to my heart. And it's something that's making a lot of headlines lately. No, not the president, not the inflation, not any of that. It's actually a little bit in the weeds for some of you, but I've shared on many videos about the inventory of how we got to be into the unicorn years and a whole lot of other things. But the inventory of new homes and the fear that we're heading toward another 2008. Clear about the fundamentals, because this housing crash that happened in 2008, I lived through it. I watched what happened. And what's really important to note is that when we learn from history, it's about looking at, are we doing the same thing that created the problem? So if you lived through 2008 like I did, you know, it was brutal. Literally, it was brutal. Like what we're going through right now. Nothing compared to what we went through for those years after 2008. And I was there driving through neighborhoods, literally in Southern California, where brand new homes, because it was too much building. I mean, it was like building on every corner. But you would drive through these neighborhoods of brand new homes, and every one of them had a for rent sign in front of the house. It was kind of eerie, actually. And what caused that problem was that investors had bought up properties because we were on this crazy trajectory. We had a limited inventory that they started building too much. So I've done many supply and demand videos, check them out, of an over demand and under supply causes prices to go up. Well, prices were going up every day practically when these houses were being built. But what happens is, everybody that wants to figure out how to make money takes advantage of circumstances, just like the stock market was on sale the past few weeks or so. Now's a good time to buy. But what people saw back then in 2006 to 2008 was, oh my God, I can buy something and I can sell it tomorrow, or I can turn it into my rental property, or I can flip it. And it was just churning, which is a real estate word. But they would then begin to rent them out in all of these neighborhoods. Now, I don't know about you, if you understand, if you have a neighborhood that's all renters, it has a different demographic than it does if it has homeowners. I'm not going to go into the mechanics of that, but take my word for it. But there were no buyers because there was so much inventory. There were no renters. So you would go down these neighborhoods, literally, it was so weird and eerie because they were empty houses, they were brand new, and they all had for rent signs on them. And guess what? People were losing their jobs right and left, so they couldn't rent at those prices, they couldn't buy, they couldn't sell. Oh, it was just a mess. Empty streets. It was a hard time. Now, interestingly enough, I've done these videos, you can check them out, on the unicorn years and what kind of mark it left. Because it left a mark not only on the psyche of the Gen Zers and the millennials, it left a mark on our country. And I understand why some of you are feeling triggered when you see headlines, because if you're paying attention, it's all about these headlines. And they're saying that inventory is back to 2009 levels. I get it. I really do. Today, I want to pull you in a little closer and take a breath, actually with you, taking a breath and look beyond the fear, right? Because I've done many videos. There's videos about stop watching the news. The press is all about clickbait because you want to know the truth. It's not the same. And I've done other videos on foreclosures and all kinds of conversations about what it could look like similarly to 2008. You know, we had the dot-com bubble, which nobody ever recreated that. We've had the mortgage meltdown. We've had other episodes in our world where things happen. We had a pandemic. Hopefully we won't recreate what we did then. It's not 2008 again. I want to really get clear about that. There's a graphic that's going to come up here, and I want you to begin to slow down and get some real context here. It's true. I will say it's true that the number of new homes on the market is the highest since 2009. Well, oh my gosh, does that account for people that have gotten into the market since 2009? Because number one, 2009, there was crazy stuff going on. But also, one of the things that I've shared over and over and over about why we had a shortage of inventory during the unicorn years was because Gen Z and the millennials got into the real estate market where they hadn't before because they were afraid of what happened in 2008. Well, those are two huge generations that started buying houses. So now we need to let that percolate up so that there's enough housing. The problem is we still do have a housing crisis in the United States. But that's where all of those similarities end. The fact that we have the same number of inventory, and since 2009, we also have a new population that has started buying houses. So looking at this housing inventory timeline from 2007 to 2009, it's really interesting that it shows that the real peak of oversupply wasn't 2009. Hello? People were going into foreclosure at that point because the meltdown started happening in 2008. It was 2007 and 2008. 2009 was actually when the brakes were already hitting hard. And if you watched any of my videos about previous understanding of how we got to where we got during the unicorn years, you know I clearly stated, because there was literally, it was, if you've ever been on an airplane and when you're touching down on the landing strip and it's like, I've often said that some pilots, I think they trained on aircraft carriers because literally you're screeching to a halt. That's what builders did. They had stopped completely building. That happened in 2008. Boom, that door closed. So when someone tells you it's 2009 all over again, oh, push. Oh, pish tosh. They're missing the point. We aren't at a new wave of wild overbuilding. As a matter of fact, these builders have been going like crazy and gangbusters to build enough inventory for all of the homes that need to be purchased. And I've already said this, we are already still in a housing crisis. And what's happening in a lot of areas, like Texas and California people are leaving and coming here. So they might have, a problem in California, but not in Texas because people keep coming and coming and coming and coming and coming. And by the way, if you'd like to know more about Wichita Falls and this community, there is a link in the body. You can download a relocation guide because it's really awesome here. But I want to tell you a story first. Back then, we had entire blocks where nobody lived, literally. I remember thinking, this isn't just a slowdown. This is a collapse. And back then in 2008, it was. The housing market collapsed the entire economy. And you can watch some of my videos on that. But the fact is that today it's different. Builders have been underbuilding for over a decade. Literally. Longer than that, honestly. And this is so important to understand. There's a chart right here about the 50-year building history. And I want you to begin to see that when you look at this graph, after the crash, builders became terrified to overbuild. They have learned, building companies are in the business of making money. They don't want to go through that again. They learned their lesson. So they pulled way back and they stayed pulled back. Well, unfortunately, that created the crisis that we had, or the unicorn years that we had in 2020 and beyond. But for over 10 years, they didn't build enough. So I've said this in many different ways. That left us with a shortage of inventory, even now with this major housing shortage everywhere. Today's new homes, they aren't part of a bubble. They're catching up. And so Odetta Kushi, who's the deputy chief economist at First American, put it this way. This means more homes on the market and more options for home buyers, which is good news for a housing market that has been underbuilt for way over a decade. And think about it. We also need to build to replace the houses that are no longer viable. There are lots and lots of houses I can drive through Wichita Falls, Texas, that need to be scraped. They need to be taken down. So there's not just houses on the market. There's houses that need to be replaced from the ones that are no longer viable. Builders are trying to heal the wound, not create a new one. So let's be real. Real estate is always local. That's why I love Wichita Falls. That's why I love talking about this channel. I encourage you to watch this channel and learn more about Wichita Falls, because some markets may be feeling a little more pressure, especially where there's a heavy concentration of new builds. And we are now seeing new builds here. Why? Because we have this influx. I just did this video about the pros and cons, an updated video of the pros and cons of Wichita Falls. Because we have all of this new influx of businesses, we need these new builds. We need more inventory. Nationally, well, we're nowhere near the kind of supply that glut we saw back in the 2006 to 2008 period. However, as I said, if you're in California or in a place like a New York that they're fleeing from the state because they don't like the blue policies, then you see an overabundance of inventory. But if you're looking at headlines, you know, the ones that are designed to make you click in a panic, take a breath. Remember, fear sells. I've done plenty of videos on that. Turn your television off. Stop clicking on the clickbait, because fear gets clicks. They're trying to get you fearful. The wisdom that builds wealth is investing in real estate, in your home, in investment real estate. It's so important to understand wealth building. And I'm a real estate agent. I'm a mortgage professional. Those are my little side hustles, to be honest with you, because my true essence, my core is to be an abundance teacher and to teach you, first of all, to change your mindset that you can be, do, or have whatever you want, and to create wealth. And you know me, I've always said the surest way to build wealth is through real estate. Strategic, thoughtful real estate. And right now, builders are giving buyers, especially first-time buyers, more options, more opportunities. This is not the time to run from the market. This is the time to understand it. This is the time to be educated, not intimidated, because opportunities are still out there if you know where to look. As I said, I know where to look. Call me, schedule a Zoom meeting in the first comments below, because I love to give you an opportunity to see that you can have all of the wealth that you desire. And if you want to know what's happening in your area, let's connect. Every market is a little different. And the more you know, the more you can create your own American dream with clarity and confidence. I've lived through the worst of the worst of the worst, and I've seen what it looks like when it falls apart. And I can tell you from my heart, this time that we're in right now is not that. We are in a healing market, not a collapsing one. And you know, my beautiful friends, you deserve to be empowered with truth. So watch this channel, subscribe, and if this message was helpful, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and drop me a comment. Let me know what your questions are about this current market, because I love hearing from you. And remember, you're not here to live in fear. You're here to create a life that you love. So, sending you so much love, and I'll see you in the next video. Y'all come back now, you hear?